I say we just go live. I don't know what clock is right, but welcome to another episode on Genealogy TV, the 400th episode. And so we're just going to chat for a couple minutes while we're waiting for people to come in. Somebody tell me that you can hear me, because I just want to make sure. It looks like everything's running, but I certainly appreciate all the compliments. You guys are awesome. It's been fun. I think half the fun of doing these live shows is the chat ahead of time. I just love, thank you for the thumbs up. Everybody's telling me you can hear me okay, so good. Thank you. Yeah, so it's just so much fun to sit and chat with people ahead of time, before before we go live. So yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You guys are just awesome. I can't tell you how much fun this is. So 400 episodes. Can you believe it? I can't believe it myself. I don't know. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun. So one of the things that, and I'm going to ask again a little bit later, but where are you watching from? It's always fun to see people in the chat saying hello. And so, yeah, we're at 400 episodes. Can you believe it? 400. Sometimes I think about this, I crank these out every week, and it's just like, yeah, I don't know. It's amazing. So thank you so much. It looks like we've got a lot of different people in the house, and forgive me if I'm putting a couple of these up ahead of time, but yeah, anyway, it's wild. And one of the things that, another milestone that's getting ready to come up here is, I don't know if you can see over my corner, but I'm at 97,000 subscribers. So if you are not subscribed to Genealogy TV and you want some free education, hit the subscribe button so that you get notified. If you hit the bell notification, especially, you'll get notified when I upload new videos. And so if this is your first time here, my name is Connie Knox. Welcome to Genealogy TV. I'm so glad you're here. Now, gosh, where do we begin? This is totally unscripted. Hey, Monica, good to see you. Monica is an expert in Edgecombe County, North Carolina. If you ever want information, she's the gal who probably knows more about that area than anybody. But yeah, this is just a blast. This is just way too much fun. So and thank you for the birthday wishes. I see some of them coming across the screen now. Thank you. Today is my birthday, and we're also celebrating the 400th episode. Just coincidentally, it all kind of happened at the same time. So thank you so much. Anyway, all right, so here's what I'm going to do. What we're going to do is we are going to be giving away some prizes. Some of you have already started to put in for that, which is awesome. And it looks like, oh my goodness, I'm sitting here looking at my the stuff that I've been putting on the bottom of the screen, and it just suddenly stopped working. So it's like, hopefully it will refresh here shortly. But okay, so I appreciate all of the birthday wishes and all of the congratulations. You guys rock. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to start working through a couple of these slides, and I have some prizes. I have to hand it to MyHeritage and Ancestry. Both came through with a boatload of prizes, so we're going to be giving those away. We'll tell you a little bit more about how to enter to win for those prizes here in a little bit. Just so you'll know, MyHeritage is giving away 4 one-year subscriptions to their platform, which is awesome. This is the complete package. Ancestry is also ponied up 10 DNA kits with traits and 5 all-access subscriptions as well. And so, woohoo! I'm super excited to be able to give some of those away. I'll also be giving away 2 all-access memberships to the Genealogy TV Academy. And so, yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be fun. So here, I'll just put some information on the screen for you. Today we're going to, just say hello a couple times. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, I can't do an episode without teaching you something. So after my 48 plus years of research, both personally and professionally, I'm going to give you like 5 good quality tips. That is my quick and dirty tips for you for good, accurate genealogy research. Then we're going to talk about the contest, and if you guys have any questions in the end about genealogy or YouTube or whatever, I will do my best to answer those to the best of my ability live on the show. So with that, here's what I want to do. I want to take this down just for a second. And I want to see if I'm getting, it looks like I am getting some of these working again. So let's take down the ticker. Thank you, Leanne. I appreciate that. I want to think I saw somebody else say that they saw their birthday, I think is tomorrow. I think I saw in the screen here. Oh my goodness. Hi from Edinburgh, Scotland. Happy birthday and congratulations. 400. Okay, so I was wondering where in the world some people would be watching from. And so I did this. Check this out. I don't know if you have seen this or not, but this is a map that I discovered a couple hours ago about time zones, because I was curious about what time zones people would be watching from. And so, wow, it's like very early in the morning, Hawaii and Australia, so it just kind of depends. But this is, in case you're wondering, it's worldtimezone.com. So I just thought I would throw that on the screen just for grins and giggles. If you ever want to go there and figure out what time zone we're working on. So, or talking to, I guess. So, yeah, look, we've got people from all over. This is awesome. Love it. Louise says it's 4 p.m. in Scotland. Oh my goodness. Here we go. We got Brazil in the house. That's awesome. Awesome, awesome. We got lots of people from all over. We even have Southern Oregon in the house. I wish I could put you all on the screen. It just is, the comments are coming in so fast and furious, I can't keep track of them. But thank you so much, everybody, for the comments and compliments. I do appreciate it. All right, so don't you love this old house? I think this is actually one of my ancestors' homesteads in North Carolina. All right, so let's get on with the party. So, whoops, here we go. So we're going to be talking about 5 easy steps based on my experience, right? As a genealogist, both professionally and personally. I am in North Carolina, and this happens to be Randolph County, where I do a lot of research. And so this little map, there's one of my tips for you that is not even on the list, but make sure that you are looking for old maps because they are so awesome. Okay, I suggest you take notes because this episode does not have a handout with it, but it's pretty easy to do. Don't you love the AI technology that's going on? This gal writing is totally created by AI. So there's my full disclosure. Tip number 1 is to avoid overwhelm. Okay, so it's especially if you're new here, and I know a couple of my Academy members are brand new to genealogy, and so this one especially is for you, but to avoid overwhelm. It's really easy to inherit a box of stuff from your parents or your grandparents or whatever and feel totally overwhelmed, especially as you are starting to get going on your family history research. Now, one of the things that you should be considering as you're going through that is to really work on one ancestor at a time. I've said this on multiple episodes before. Sometimes maybe an ancestral couple. I will start with an ancestral couple if I have very little information about them, and I might create my notes, and we'll talk about research notes in a little bit, but on an ancestral couple, if I don't have but maybe a marriage record on them, but eventually I will break them apart. And then staying organized is key. So if you've inherited that box from your family and it is, like, or you have boxes and boxes of stuff or lots and lots of files that you've kept over the years, you probably know where the records are for that one ancestor that you're starting to work with, right? So my point here is to organize just that one ancestor or ancestral couple, maybe even the family unit, husband, wife, and kids, So, yeah. Okay, I have to put this one up. Thank you for the reminder to like. I appreciate that. Thank you. So yeah, anyway, here we go. So this whole process that I teach is how to stay focused, how to stay organized, how to stay focused. And by working on one ancestor at a time, you really are kind of laser focused. That's me. My daughter says I have ADD because I just focus in on one person. But you don't have to have ADD to be able to stay focused. Just, sometimes I'll take a sticky note and I'll stick it on my monitor. And I'll say, this is my research question for today, or this is the ancestor I'm working on. I do this full workup on every direct line ancestor, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. The other part of not getting overwhelmed is to avoid rabbit holes. Now let's talk about rabbit holes for a minute. All of those who have ever done rabbit holes, put, I don't know, the word rabbit in the comment sections, because rabbit holes are, people, I get it. So here's the deal with rabbit holes. As you are researching that one ancestor and you're trying to stay focused, look at all the rabbits. I love it. In the comments, that is hilarious. You guys are too much. Yeah, so there's a lot of rabbits, people who have been chasing rabbit holes. That's so funny. I like this one here. This one, rabbit in big bold letters. All right, so we get it. There's a lot of people who have run down rabbit holes before. All right, so here's how you manage rabbit holes, okay? So I even sell this. I'm sorry. They're just too cute. I just got to put them in there. That's hilarious, Maria. Thank you. Okay, so the rabbit holes. How do you manage them? Here's how it works. You're researching that one ancestor. You're staying focused and you're not paying attention to the comments and trying to put them on the screen. You're staying focused on the subject. And so then you run across records for, I don't know, so let's pretend for a moment that you are researching your grandfather and you're trying to find the birth date of your grandfather, okay? And so that's your research question. What is the birth date of my grandfather and whatever his name is, okay? And now you've come across Aunt Mabel's birth certificate, or you came across the brother, or you came across the marriage certificate. Okay, so here's how you handle that. So let's say it's Aunt Mabel's record that you've come across while looking for your grandfather. And so what you do is you open a document. This will be your future research notes. Yes, I'm going to talk about research notes. And maybe you just label it, Mabel, whatever her maiden name is, and research notes. And then you just put a very brief description about the record that you found for Aunt Mabel and the hyperlink, and just put it in there because you're going to come back to that document the day that you're focused on Aunt Mabel and not on your grandfather. And then you close it out, you put it away, and I still see a lot of rabbits going by. And so you put that document away so that you can get back to your grandfather, who was the research question in which you were trying to research. Got it? So the whole goal here is to try your best to avoid those rabbit holes. Now, the rabbit holes, though, you may end up finding yourself opening a couple different documents, because if you are running across somebody, I have John Henleys, for example. I probably have 17 John Henleys in my family tree, and it's those 17 different John Henleys. I have to sit there and figure out what records go with what. So sometimes I will have a couple different sets of research notes open at the same time, just so that I can keep attaching. Okay, as I figure it out, all right, this belongs to this John. I will attach it to his research notes and move on and get back to Grandpa, because he is my focus. Make sense? Okay, so back to the slideshow. Now we're going to talk about research notes. And for those of you who have ever done my style of research notes and felt that it was a game changer, put game changer in the comments, because I want people to see if it has been helpful. And yes, Jean, you are so right. We do need to stay focused. Absolutely. I'm going to grab a sip real quick. And then we're going to get back to research notes. All right, so research notes. Yeah. So see, look in the comments. All of these people that are saying game changer, this is what they're talking about. This is the game changer of research notes. It is so helpful to create research notes, and this is one of the many skills that you can learn how to do. And honestly, it's amazing when you start to do research notes. So let's talk about this real quick. And actually, I was chatting with somebody prior to the show, and she's like, yeah, maybe one of these days I'll actually be able to be convinced to do research notes. So I'm hoping to convince you today. And I think her name was Mary. Mary, I'm talking to you because this is obviously a game changer, as everybody is saying. In fact, here, I'll even throw this one on the screen. She says it is a major game changer, and it really is. All right, so here's the deal. People ask me all the time, why can't I put my research notes in Ancestry or MyHeritage or FamilySearch or whatever your platform of choice is? And I say, because you can't format it. You can't put all the details you want. There's a limit on characters in there. The sources are not my kind of source citations. I do professional source citations, but that's just me. You could put professional source citations in the description box or something on Ancestry. But point being is, when you write out source citations, it'll change your world. All right, I'm sharing this one. Thank you, Shelly. Shelly is one of the students, and she says practically the #1 tip at the Academy. And yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. So the trick with research notes is to keep them in chronological order. I always start with the date, and then I put the abstracted information in that pertains to each record found. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. So let me get this screen to advance. So in my opinion, research notes are the most important thing you can do in your genealogy research. And again, one document, research notes document per ancestor. I usually title them with, like, if my ancestor is Christopher Madsen, as some of the research notes that you're looking at here, I would file that as Madsen Christopher research notes. And usually I put a 1 in front of it so it rises to the top of the file folder for Christopher Madsen. And the reason I do that is because this is the document, the most important document in my file. It is constantly being updated. Every time I find something new, I add that information to my research notes. I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted by the comments. Yes, like Nike slogan says, just do it. I totally agree. Just try it for one ancestor. Or let's say you're stuck on an ancestor and you can't find something. Start creating research notes for that one ancestor, because when you start to do this, it makes you pay attention to the details. I see you, Mary. She says she's guilty, and yes, you did. So it makes you pay attention to the details, and when you start paying attention to the details, the hidden clues come out. The hidden details that you hadn't noticed before will lead you down the right path to putting these items together. So with that, we're going to do one ancestor. It definitely is a game changer, as you see from the testimony of all of the commenters who say they have done it, and it exposes those details. Okay, so you're going to do this in chronological order, and just the information found, but also negative evidence if you have done the reasonably exhaustive research step. So let's stop for a second. We got two definitions that, especially if you're new here, need to understand. Yeah, I see you, Jill. Super stuck. Research notes. I can't say it enough. So negative evidence is information that you have not found, but it's specific to your research question. So if our research question is, when was Grandpa born? Then, and of course we would use Grandpa's real name in our research question. But when Grandpa was born, and you go and you, like, I think he was born in Monroe County, whatever state, then if you're looking around in Monroe County and you're not finding him, and you've gone to the county and you've done this reasonably exhaustive research and you're not finding it, that's negative evidence. And you would want to put that in the birth area of your chronology and say this is negative evidence. When I do that, I don't do it very often because I usually find the records, but when I do that, I put it in red because it's like I'm still looking for that. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, but my research notes also become my research plan. And so that's what the red font is for. So I'll just go ahead and explain that. So I'll put in, let's say you're looking in records and you find a census record, and in the census record, it has a value of the real estate. The real estate value is a clue. They owned land. There's a deed defined. If they owned land, there's probably a will defined. So now in red, I will put, go find the deed right underneath the census record. You know, I'll even make a little note. The 1910 census, or whatever census it was, said there was a value of $2,500 in the, you know, and I'll make this little note and I'll put it in red, go find the deed. And that pops out at me when I return to my research notes. Oh, I still need to go find the deed for this guy. So, yeah, it's awesome. And so, hey, Amy Cross is in the house. Awesome. Welcome, Amy. Amy has her own YouTube channel. Check her out at Ancestry Amy on YouTube. So when you do this, right, you now have your research plan already working for you. Inside your research notes, you can jump right to that part of your research notes as to what's going on. And so the other definition that we need to talk about is the reasonably exhaustive research. For those of you who are new to that, the reasonably exhaustive research part of it is a term that was coined by the Board for Certification of Genealogists. And that basically means you've turned over every rock. Okay, so that's what the reasonably exhaustive research. As Judy Russell, the legal genealogist, says, it's not exhaustive research. You're not killing yourself to try and find it, but you've done a reasonable amount of work to try and find the answer specific to the research question at hand, because you're going to come back to it again later. So, yeah. All right, moving on. Don't forget to put your sources in there. I don't care how you write source citations, but it's not that hard. I do professional source citations because that's just what I do. Yeah, I'm a geek that way. But if you just think about who, what, where, when, why, and how, that will get you the basic building blocks of creating a source citation. I would prefer you didn't use URLs because URLs die. And one of the reasons why I say this is because when you're writing source citations, by the way, there's a good source citation. There's a new website called Site Builder that has great building blocks for creating source citations. I didn't even put it in the notes here, but sitebuilder.com, I think, is the name of it. So I see a lot of people saying hi to Amy in the notes in the chat. Amy's awesome. One of my best friends. Okay, so the sources, when you're doing the who, what, where, when, why, and how, you can kind of build together a source citation. The reason why we don't want to put URLs in there is because they break over time, and then it doesn't comply with what I call the 200-year rule. Now, I came up with the 200-year rule a long time ago, but this is basically it. Can someone navigate your records and or research notes 200 years from now without a finding aid? Do you have some elaborate scheme that somebody would have to find this finding aid in order to figure out how to find your records? This is one of the reasons why I teach the system that I teach, but the source citations kind of follow along that same thing. So if you're just putting a URL in, then it's, in my opinion, not enough. I would put something like, the creator, if it's a book, the author, the book title, or maybe it's on Ancestry, it's the collection, or it's on FamilySearch or whatever. You put all that information in there. And then if you want to put a URL in there, you can just say also hyperlink. And now you've got both a reasonable source citation and a URL. All right, enough about source citations, but I think you get the idea. So a little bit closer look here if you want to see this up full. This is just a very brief look at 2 pages of, I think, a 10-page, no, this one's an 8-page document that I created, and it gives some brief information. I sometimes plug images into my documents just for fun because I think they look cool. I like the ship, so I might throw that in there, but also, you want to try and source everything the best you can. So that's enough about research notes. My tip number 3 is location, location, location. And so when we're doing research, we want to be thinking about several things with regard to the location. One is, when did the borders change for this particular area that I'm researching, either state or county, depending on the time period, and know when the county was formed that you're researching in, because a lot of the records are at the county level. Sometimes they're at the state level, sometimes they're at the federal level, but it helps to know where you're researching. So if you know when the county was formed, it might be that your records might be in one county or the parent county from which the county was born. Know the neighboring counties as well, because those are often the parent county. I have one situation in Martin County, North Carolina, and I can't think of the other name of the other county offhand, but I had ancestors who were living on a farm, and they were in Martin County at one point, and then the borders changed. They didn't move, but the borders kept changing around them. They were right on the edge of the county line, and so some of their records are in Martin County and some are in this other county. It's been a while since I did that research, but you get the idea. So know what the neighboring counties are. Okie dokie. So where are you going to find these location, where, if we're going to be thinking about location research, where are we going to go? Card catalogs for one, or collection catalogs. On Ancestry, it's called a card catalog. On MyHeritage, it's a collections catalog. And you can go to the county libraries. A lot of these people have Facebook groups or online repositories at the county level. They may not be depending on the county, it depends on how robust it will be, but you can find stuff a lot of times at the county level, and a lot of times you can find contact information and find the local expert in that area, in that county. State Archives is another great resource. Now, in the United States, I have created documents that have every state archive phone number, email address, and link to their digital collections online. Every state has one. College and universities is another place. You can find a lot of times the history department or something along those lines may be great resource for you. So just investigate the colleges and universities in your area. And then, of course, the FamilySearch Wiki. This is my first place I go, is the FamilySearch Wiki. You just go sign into your FamilySearch account. And oh my gosh, if you are not on FamilySearch, you should be. It's free. Get an account. And then you'll have all the resources of FamilySearch available to you. And so you go to search and drop down to the research wiki, and then you can drill in by location and see what is available. And the reason why I say this is because if you are researching, let's say you're on Ancestry, and you're researching and you're not finding something that you're looking for, or you're on MyHeritage and you're not finding something you're looking for. If you don't start out at the card catalog, then you don't know what records they actually have. So it might be that MyHeritage or Ancestry doesn't have the records. Maybe FamilySearch has them. Maybe some other website completely. Maybe it's a state archive or something that has them. But if you go to the FamilySearch Wiki, you drill into the location in which you're researching, there are hyperlinks in there that'll take you to where the records are. So remember, tip number 1 was not be overwhelmed. Tip number 2 was kind of in the stay focused department, right? Well, I guess that was part of tip number 1. But so you want to stay focused on that research question. So you're going to drill into the location that's related to that research question and that ancestor, that one ancestor that you are working on. Tip number 4 is strategic research. And so this is where you kind of start putting your thinking cap on. Now you've kind of created your research notes. You have gathered a lot of stuff already. You've kind of deduced what you have and what you don't have, and you've formulated that research question about what you don't have. And so now you got to start thinking strategically. And this is where you plan your research and research your plan. And this takes me back to the research notes again. So I go back to my research notes, and it's already done for me. I don't even have to plan anything, because as I was doing my research, in red letters, I put what it was that I was missing, and now I can go straight there. I know exactly what I'm missing or where to go look, and I can go to FamilySearch Wiki, or MyHeritage has a wiki now. Cindy's List is another one that you can kind of go find out where things are. There's lots of resources out there about where to find. Google might help you. You never know. So then you want to research your plan. You want to follow the evidence. So the reason why I say that is because you want to avoid confirmation bias. And confirmation bias is this. You have a hypothesis. You think grandpa was born in this one area. That's your hypothesis. And it might be based on something you heard in the family, or maybe, somebody told you once that, I think they were from Ireland. You don't know. So you've got this hypothesis. Well, if you find records with grandpa's name on it that says he was born in Ireland, does that mean that's your guy? You might need to do that reasonably exhaustive research to discover whether those records really are your grandfather or not. And so you need to kind of start using those research skills to see if that is your guy or not. So don't force the records you find into the hypothesis you create. So keep an open mind, I guess, is the point here. Tip number 5 is to learn the research skills. Now you can do this. I have 400 episodes, right? You can do this here on Genealogy TV. You could do it on Amy's channel. You can do it on a lot of different YouTube channels. You can do it at the Salt Lake Institute for Genealogy, at the National Genealogical Society. There's genealogical societies all over. You can learn on Facebook from the people in those areas who are the experts. There is a lot of places to learn. So again, you want to start with one ancestor. No one says you have to become professional level researcher. And so to do that, you could become quite honestly, a lot of what we teach are professional techniques anyway. The only thing that we're not teaching, at least right now, is all of the business end of being a professional, writing invoices and reports and all that stuff for clients. So you're getting a lot of the professional skills that we use to discover our family history. So learn those skills because it makes you a great researcher. And it also helps you to confirm those relationships to make sure that you're creating an accurate tree so that you're not barking up the wrong tree, okay? Those skills are this, and these are just a few of them, but organizational skills is one. We talk about that a lot, how to stay organized. Research notes is part of it, how to file the stuff, scanning, digitizing, trying to put everything in a digital medium whenever possible. Learning how to create good research questions so that you're staying focused on your research question. Evidence evaluation. Now this is a big one. So when you are looking at one record, that's what evidence evaluation is one record at a time, evaluating it for what you see. Is it an original? Is it a copy? Is it a clerk's copy? Is that signature I'm seeing an original signature, or is it a clerk's version of his signature? So you need to be mindful of that. A lot of times on vital records, we can find a lot of clues on marriage certificates, birth certificates, etc., death certificates. On death certificates, probably one of the best ones is who's the informant. That gives you some idea of the accuracy of the death certificate. On a marriage certificate, look at the witnesses. They're probably family members, right? On, birth certificates or any kind of vital record, a lot of times you look at the form number. The form number, sometimes you can look that up and figure out when that form was created. And that will give you an indication, is this a more recent copy of a very old document, or is this an original document? There's a lot that goes into evidence evaluation. And then we take all of our records and we compare them with each other. And this is correlation of evidence. So when we're doing that, we can then, like for an easy example is if you were to take all of the census records during a person's lifetime and line them up, 1880, 1900, 1910, 1920, and so on, and you line them up and make sure that the names are consistent, the ages are consistent across the decades, the children are consistent. You learn a lot by going through that process. Now, we usually do this in an Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheets. You could do it that way. And if that scares you, I promise you it's not hard. You just click in a cell and type. That's all you have to do. There's no math involved. But you could do this on a sheet of paper if you wanted to, but it's just a lot more cumbersome. And then, of course, our research notes. And this is the abstracted information that we are finding, okay? Research planning is another skill. And I basically told you some of the cheat ways to do that in your research notes. Source citations is another skill. But I do this whole little thing about the who, what, where, when, and why, but I double that up in that it's who, where, when, and when. There's two whens. Actually, there's two wheres now that I think about it, and why and how. So the reason why I do that is because when the document was created and when you found it. Where the document was created and where you found it. So those elements in a source citation help you create good source citation. So the takeaways from today: avoid overwhelm, do your research notes, location research, strategic thinking, this is the thinking cap part, right? And learn the research skills for really the foundation of of good quality genealogy. All right, let's talk about the prizes for today. We've got Ancestry. We got 10 DNA kits plus traits, 5 all-access subscriptions. MyHeritage has jumped in with 4 MyHeritage complete 1-year subscriptions, and I've got a couple all-access passes to the Academy. All right, so we have to talk about the rules. I'm sorry, it's the law. So you must live in the U.S. So for those outside of the U.S., I am so sorry, but it is so hard to keep up with the laws in the United States, let alone all the laws and regulations outside of in every country around the world. So unfortunately, I have to keep it to the U.S. You must be 18 years of age or older. Winners are chosen by random draw, 1 entry per household. Duplicate entries will be eliminated. Odds of winning are based on the number of entries. YouTube, my sponsors, employees, and affiliates are not responsible. I am the sole responsible person for this contest. No purchase is necessary. Contest ends May 2nd, 2024 at midnight Eastern U.S. Winners will be chosen and notified by random draw no later than May 10th, 2024. Winners have 72 hours to respond to our notification, or an alternate winner will be chosen. Alternate winners, if any, will be chosen by May 30th, 2024. Those are the deadlines. So, how to enter. Go to genealogytv.org/contest. Now, you don't need to jump away from the video right now and go there, because you got plenty of time. It doesn't really matter when long as it's in before May 2nd. Fill out the form. You will be added to the newsletter list. And I promise you, I'm not a spammer. I can't stand it when I sign up for a newsletter and I get something every couple hours or every day. We usually only put 1 or 2, maybe 3 out a week, but it's pretty rare that I go that often. Your information is used for the Genealogy TV newsletter and for contacting the winners only, with one exception, and that is any winner. That information will be given to either Ancestry or MyHeritage, depending on what you win. So there is the exception, and all decisions are final. Full set of rules are at genealogytv.org/contest. And again, YouTube has nothing to do with this, which is part of their material terms and community guidelines that I need to follow. So you definitely have some prizes that you can play with, or hopefully add to this. So Ancestry just yesterday said, hey, by the way, if you want to mention this, starting on May 2nd, which is right after the contest ends, is this. She says, starting on May 2nd through May 10th, folks can buy Ancestry DNA plus traits on Amazon or at Ancestry for just $39, which is 60% off, or $60 off, and get 3 months of World Explorer membership for just $1 more, our lowest price of the year. And I think that, yeah, it's 3 months that you get it for $1 for World Explorer. So that is pretty cool. So thank you both Ancestry and MyHeritage for the prizes. And of course, I've got 2 all-access memberships for 1 year to the Academy. And with that, if you have any questions, here's what I ask you to do, is put QQQ and your question in there. I will try and answer as many as I can. I'm going to take a quick sip and catch my breath. And I do appreciate all that you guys are doing and saying. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much, Jill, for the comment. Let's see. Wendy says, thanks for the giveaways and congrats on the 400th episode and happy birthday. Thank you so much. Yeah, I agree that some of these prizes, I was just kind of overwhelmed. I had reached out to them and said, hey, any chance? And they're like, yeah. So it's like, thank you so much. So, yeah. Again, Maria, thank you so much. All right. I'm looking at this question. Where is the best place to start? I think there's a typo there, but maybe not. So I would suggest that you start easy. You could get a free account at either MyHeritage or Ancestry. You might even want to start looking on FamilySearch. Now, keep in mind, FamilySearch is a collaborative tree, so everybody's contributing to that. And so, you know, as far as being able to, you know, just get started, just kind of gather what you have and pick a place. I personally have trees on all locations, but I keep my main tree on Ancestry. I have copies of it on MyHeritage, WikiTree, a couple different places. Now, WikiTree is another collaborative tree. It is a free place, and so hopefully that helps you. She said, hang on a second. Let's see. Where is a good place to start researching Mexico records? She says. Okay. I would start on Ancestry. That's probably, they've got some Mexico records. Now, FamilySearch, here's another one. FamilySearch has that new experimental website that they have where you can type in keywords. It's, if you go to FamilySearch and you log in, then down on the lower right side it says experiments, and then you click into that and do the full text search. They have Mexico notary records. You might find something in that as well. So I hope that helps. Let me see what other questions we have. Okay, let's see if I can get this one to go up. My screen is acting weird. Do research notes for Ancestry. A, do I add births of individual siblings in the timeline? You can. Sometimes it helps to know some of those, and I wouldn't put a whole lot of information in there, but sometimes it helps to know when, especially when parents died, because if you have in the timeline, you know, so-and-so's father died, then you can go, okay, well, he was a landowner, so there may be a will. So we're going to go look for a probate package. Even if they didn't have a will, sometimes there is a probate package. And so, thank you for the birthday notice there. I'm looking for questions here. I see a lot of them. I'm trying to pick one here. Okay, so do research outside of the U.S. and a person is not familiar with the country or language. What is your advice? I would go to the FamilySearch wiki, first of all, and find out where the records are. MyHeritage also has a wiki. MyHeritage works a lot with European records. It kind of depends on where you're looking. And so I would go to the wikis and try and discover where those records are located. And then as far as the language goes, a lot of these websites, especially like I go to the National Archives in Denmark a lot, and it's in Danish. But you can click, if you're on, I use Chrome a lot, there's a translation button usually in the upper right corner that says, you want to switch this to English? I'm like, yeah. And so, hopefully that gives you a start. Charles says he loves WikiTree. Yeah, WikiTree is another kind of like a hidden gem that a lot of people don't even know about. So wikitree.com, it's a free site. So WikiTree does not have records per se, but you can't add an ancestor or any kind of facts without some sort of documentation as to where you got that information. So there's usually some sort of source information. I found, I found a rare DNA match related directly from a single maternal line. Can't find where her grandmother connects to my grandmother from the same area in Ukraine. Any suggestions? Boy, that is DNA questions usually in a live form is really challenging. So one of the best DNA educators out there is Diane Southard with Your DNA Guide. You might want to take some of her classes. I have a few classes, but it's usually focused around ancestry DNA and autosomal DNA. And so it just kind of depends. So you might consider a rare DNA match. I don't know if that is a mitochondrial DNA match or if that is an autosomal DNA match, but Ukraine is going to be a tough one for sure. But I would go to MyHeritage for that and see if you can find something there. And also make sure you upload it to Family Tree DNA if you haven't done so already. All right, let me see if I've got some more questions here I can put up. Let's see. Let's see. There's a bunch of them. Okay, here's a quick one. So what is a probate package? So a probate package is when somebody dies and their estate has to be settled in the courts. So probate is a set of court records that, so sometimes people died without a will, but they owned 200 acres or 100 acres or 20 acres or whatever they owned. They have property, both personal and real estate. They need to settle that estate. And so I'll give you a quick lesson in old school probate issues. So a lot of times, depending on the location, depending on the time period, women were not allowed to own land, but they could be named in the probate package for part of their dower rights. So dower rights was a law that said that a woman, it usually was 1/3 of the husband's property. So she got, if she survived him, she got 1/3 of the property for the remainder of her natural life. You'll see that in the documents a lot of times. And so as long as she's alive, she gets 1/3. Well, the other 2/3 typically go to the sons. And so this probate package, while it doesn't necessarily, sometimes it has a will, sometimes it doesn't. I'm just saying, make sure you're looking for the probate package. And hello, Donna. I see you there, my old buddy from high school. Hi, thanks for the birthday wish. I appreciate it. Now, Paul, how many candles? One will do, thanks. You guys are funny. Let's see. See if I can answer this one. Military records. Tried to find for my dad. Army says his involved in the St. Louis fire. Nothing found. Yeah. So for those who are not familiar, there was, I think it was in 1972, there was a big fire in St. Louis where a lot of the Army records, and I think it was some of the Navy records, were kept. And so sometimes you can't find it. I would certainly go to Fold 3 and see if you can find any more records there. Also go to the state archives in the area in which you are researching, because sometimes there are records that have survived there. So I hope that helps. Let's see what we have. I have a 6-time, I think it's supposed to be great-grandmother, that's my Brickwall. I have 3 different last names for her, but only been married once, and 2 different birth years, and 2 different birthplaces. So this is where we want to pull together that correlation of evidence skill that we're talking about. So first we evaluate all the records that you have and confirm that this is your person. And it could be, we evaluate the records. If it's a census record, sometimes mistakes happen. If it's, a family that maybe was illiterate, or that the census taker just heard it one way and wrote it down, name spellings were not that important back then. People spelled things the way they heard them, and they moved on. It was not a big deal. And so the dates, you're going to have to start correlating that stuff, and that's when you start doing that evaluation. Is this a copy? Could this be a mistake? Is there a reason why this one could be wrong and this one could be right? So that's what all of that correlation of evidence skill comes in. So hopefully that helps. Here's one. What genealogy software do you use? In your opinion, is it a must to use? I use primarily Ancestry is my go-to tree. That's where everything is located. As I'm working, as I'm working each branch, depending on what I'm working on will depend on where I go next. So if I need to go to MyHeritage because I know that they have a certain set of records, I will fill out that whole branch on MyHeritage so that I can get the hints and cull that resource. And so it just depends on what I'm doing, but I highly recommend that you have one go-to tree somewhere. I do occasionally sync with Family Tree Maker. They did in the past have some problems with syncing. I know Krista Cowan is a big advocate of Family Tree Maker, so if she's happy with it, I guess it should be fine. But I really don't use, one of the things I do like about Family Tree Maker is the planning area. So, but most of the time I now use my research notes as my planning area. So if I'm going on a trip to Salt Lake City for another conference and I can get into Family Tree Maker, and as I'm working in Family Tree Maker, I can add notes with a location. I need to go to the North Carolina State Archives, or I need to go to a family history center to see this record or whatever. Then I can start creating that plan by location, and then I can print the plan from Family Tree Maker from that single location. So that when I go there, I'm working multiple ancestors all at one time, and I have this nice, neat list. You can do the same thing on a sheet of paper, quite honestly. And is it a must-have? No. I think one of the online platforms is perfectly fine. Let's see what Dave has to say. Any helpful hints in researching mid to late 1800s, early 1900s, Louisiana plantations, orphanages, etc.? So this kind of goes back to some of what we were talking about. Know your borders, know your the location in which you're researching, and then I would go to the state archives. Every state archive, I mean, this is what archives were built for. I actually did an interview with the chief archivist over there at the North Carolina State Archives, and I said, what is the main purpose of a state archive? And she said, genealogy and history. And so, but genealogy was the first thing out of her mouth. So a lot of what they are doing is helping you with your family history research. I would contact the county library as well. So those are my tips for that one. I'm sorry I'm skipping over a couple of these questions. I'm trying to get everybody in. Let's see. What else do we have here? Okay, so how do you incorporate DNA into your research and conclusions? So I use DNA as probably the second to last step. So you can't use DNA without the paper trail. And the only time you would use DNA, I think, that didn't include a paper trail is if you're trying to prove parentage. Because sometimes the documents that you have say one set of parents when in reality it was a different set of parents. Otherwise, DNA is the last thing I do, or second to last thing I do, but it kind of goes hand in hand with the very last thing I do, which is member trees. So if you've watched any of my videos, you'll see that if I'm going through, say, Ancestry, for example, you'll notice that in the hints list, the very top thing is member trees, right? And so first thing I do is ignore them. And so I go through all of the hints. I go through all of my research plan. I go through documenting everything. I go through this whole process for my ancestor, including the fan club. And if you're new here and you don't know what the fan club is, it's friends, associates, and neighbors. Some people call it family associates and neighbors, but it was originally coined by Elizabeth Shown Mills as friends, associates, and neighbors. And so when you are doing all of that research, you do the fan club research, and then I'll go look at DNA. Because one of the things that happens with DNA is, so you're looking at DNA matches, and those are real. But then you go look at through lines, and it's a hint feature. Please don't think that through lines on Ancestry is your tree. It is not. It is saying, here's what Ancestry says, basically what it is with through lines. So it takes other member trees, which may or may not be accurate. It takes DNA, which is accurate, and it kind of combines your tree with the other member trees and the DNA, and it tries and says, this is how we think it lines up, but we're not sure. And so, it might be that the through lines is inaccurate. MyHeritage has a version of it too. I forget what it is offhand, but so you got to remember that those are hints. And so when you're then just say you're put through lines aside and you're working on the DNA list, the matches list, you want to skip over the top people because they're like your siblings in your immediate family, and you get down to like first, second, third cousins. That's the second cousins are the best. And that's where you can start looking at cousin matches, and you can filter it down to the branch of the tree. Remember your research question, so whatever your research question is on that sticky note that you put on your monitor, remember that that question, and then filter your DNA matches to that. Then look at their trees and see if they have any hints. And what records do they have attached to the same records? Quite honestly, most of the time, that when I go through the whole process that I go through with my ancestors, I don't need DNA to confirm what I've already figured out. The only time I really want to use DNA is if I've really got a mystery, and my mom was adopted, and so I used DNA to confirm what I had already discovered decades before DNA was a thing. So I had done all this research. I found her biological family. I documented it all. And then when DNA came about, I took a DNA test and was able to confirm that this all lined up the way I thought it did. So to me, it's one of the last things I use unless I have a specific problem that, that I'm looking for. All right, Christy has this question. Is it possible to research orphanages in the early 1900s? It depends on the orphanage. Orphanages are one of the hardest things to research sometimes, but sometimes you can find the records at the state archives, the county libraries. You might even try looking up the land at the county register of deeds where the orphanages were located. That might bring you clues as to where it was. And so I hope that helps. Susan says, have you tried AirTable? So this goes back, this is a good question. So I have used AirTable. I don't use it for genealogy. I used it actually as part of a course that I was the student in. And I'm not a huge fan of AirTable. I know a lot of people are, but this kind of goes back to my 200-year rule. Can people navigate 200 years from now your records without a finding aid? And is this software you're using going to survive? So if you're using a document like Word, it's basically a text-based product. I believe that document, even in a text format, would survive 200 years from now, even if Word doesn't. So is Airtable going to be around? Is, a lot of people like to use those electronic notebooks. And so I don't know. I don't want to put, it's great for working out problems and stuff, but at the end of the day, when you come to a conclusion, I like to put it in my research notes. So I hope that answered your question. Boy, there are a lot of questions here. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate the compliments, and thank you so much. My goodness, we've been on for a little over an hour. I think I tried to get to a lot of the questions, and I have like 35 pages of comments here, so I don't know that I'm going to be able to get to all of them. Here's one. I'm interested in mapping locations to visually see a migration pattern. Bravo! Is there a program or software available for mapping old locations? Yes and no. Google actually has a way that you can create. So if you have a Google account, you can go into maps.google.com, I think it is, and you can create pinpoints on the map and save them. I've done this before. I can't really demonstrate it right now, but you can pinpoint the migration patterns. Now, one of the things I do, because I like Photoshop and I'm a photography geek, I will go and I will pull in an old map and overlay it on a current map and kind of map it out. You can also use something like Deed Mapper, which if you have the deeds on, like say a lot of the deeds for mine are in North Carolina, and so this is the meets and bounds system. So it's, from the rock 20 chains northeast to the pole, to the rock, to the tree, to the so-and-so. And so you can kind of map out the shape in Deed Mapper. It's a lot easier west of the Mississippi, where you have the federal land states that are on a grid system. But I hope that helped answer your question. Let's see. I got another question here. Are you doing a recording on your patio this year? Your yard is so lovely. Thank you. Actually, we're sprucing up the patio right now. So maybe, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it. But yeah. All right, you guys, I'm going to sign off. I appreciate all of the good wishes. I hope you managed to get in and go over to genealogytv.org/contest and sign up for the contest there. And hopefully you can win something along the way. And so with that, I'm going to sign off and go eat some lunch. All right, we'll see you all. Bye. Thank you.